So let's turn our attention to all things around Arizona State and a little bit about the U of A and what's gone on with Alabama. There's this interesting dynamic in what's happened with the Sun Devils and the Wildcats. John Garcia Jr. is college football recruiting analyst at Scout Recruiting and at Bama Mag, and he joins us for a couple of minutes here on Brad Sismat Football AZ. I'm curious, John, from a standpoint of what's transpired out here. Let's just go right down the list. Greg Byrne leaves U of A, comes to Alabama. How is that being met by the Crimson Tide faithful?
You know, there's a lot of optimism. Everything we've heard, whether it's dialing back to Arizona or even back to his Mississippi State days, obviously he has familiarity with the SEC. Everything's really come back positive, and it's sort of a breath of fresh air in the Alabama community. The youth and his, I guess, acceptance of technology, even social media like Twitter. It's something fresh and new at Alabama. Everything's pretty old school around here. So he's a breath of fresh air in many different directions. And again, his ties to the SEC sort of validates him with that initial impression. But again, everything we've heard has been overwhelmingly positive, and it seems like something that's going to be not so short term.
What is the view from Tuscaloosa about Billy Napier coming out here and being part of Todd Graham's staff? What are the Sun Devils getting?
I think what's important here is that Billy Napier's had opportunities the last 2 or 3 years. Every year around National Signing Day, his name had popped up for coordinator jobs all over the country. So for him to take one with Arizona State, it tells you that it's something that he'd been looking forward to for a very long time. He was very selective with the process. He's a young guy, energetic guy. Obviously, he coached wide receivers at Alabama, and their track record has been excellent. And I think another dimension here is obviously, he's coached under Nick Saban, but he's also been a very good recruiter. He's an energetic guy. He can adapt to youth, and I think that's what's going to be most important as he adjusts, to a new conference in the Pac-12. Had a recruit tell me that, they had a scheduled dinner at their house, but instead they just played video games. They played NBA 2K, and Billy Napier actually defeated the recruit in the video game. So he's adaptable. He knows his target demographic quite well, and I think it'll be big for him at ASU.
Tell me about developing wide receivers. Amari Cooper is the first one that comes to the top of my mind, just developing players at that position.
Yeah, he really focuses sort of on that pro football mentality. Obviously, all those guys are gifted. Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley, the list goes on with Alabama. But they really they got bigger, they got better, and they blocked. I think that was really his main thing, whether it was Derrick Henry during his Heisman season or even this year where there were 4 or 5 running backs, including the quarterback. Those receivers down the field made an impact. Every single time there was a big run, it was often attributed to the receivers, and not just the big, strong ones, some of the smaller ones as well. So Billy Napier's really, worked to round out these wide receivers' game because let's be honest, coming out of high school, all of them were talented pass catchers, but few of them were physical run blocker types, and now they all have that attribution to go along with the passing accolades. So he's a well-rounded guy, again, aims for that pro-style nature, and I think it's resonated with those receivers.
What's Arizona State getting in Blake Barnett from your view, and why didn't it work at Alabama?
He has all the tools. There's never been a doubt about that. When he came to Alabama, there was talk that he could start right away. And obviously, things didn't go that way his freshman year, but Bama did win a national championship. He redshirted, ended up coming back this past year, started game 1 against USC, which I'm sure most people out there saw. But after that, it just never sort of materialized. Jalen Hurts took hold of that quarterback job and really never looked back. And it was the confidence he played with, his poise, his mentality, whether it was up or down, he was sort of the same guy. I think Blake Barnett was a little bit more emotional, but things were pretty clear from his camp. The goal was to start early and often at Alabama. And once it appeared to be Jalen Hurts' job, they sort of did what we all expected them to do, look elsewhere. And now it looks like Blake's going to be able to play game 1 for ASU, which would be huge. He's a true dual threat guy. He was a wide receiver early on in high school, so he's a legitimate athlete. We know he's got the big arm. He won the Elite 11, the prestigious high school quarterback competition there as a senior in high school when he was committed to Alabama. And all of his teammates can only say very good things about his work ethic, his personality, his locker room presence, things like that. So a fresh start is sometimes just what's welcomed, and we see it a lot with quarterbacks, so hopefully it does work out for Blake and his family.
John Garcia Jr., thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.